Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So welcome to the start of a new year, first full year with precision farming. So you're going to notice I've gotten rid of the bin for lime. At this point, with the auger wagon holding 70,000, there's really little benefit of having 100,000 bin or 110, whatever it was. And so it's just been a bit of a challenge to justify that. And so rather than continue to go that route, I just wanted to go ahead and eliminate that, make the farm a little simpler to operate. I've been debating it with the other supplies, but just decided against it at this point because these are used more often, and I still need to be able to put things in certain locations. So at this point we can go ahead and plant, and to do that obviously I need to move my quad track and get it connected up to the equipment, get it out there and get it filled up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll make the determination of what's happening and kind of see how things change with precision farming now finally available here on this version of FSN. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this here to fill things up. There's enough room to maneuver around. You can see we've got plenty of feed here still operating. I have not added any more since we've been on. So I will say I am loving the fact of how the cows are working with regards to feeding than the pigs were. So far I have a big thumbs up for the changes I've made regarding animals. And as I said, it's just really pretty exciting given that precision farming came in at about the same time. Like, there's just a lot of improvements to the farm that should make some significant difference in our time. So I've got fertilizer here, as you can see. So I'm just going to take that over immediately so that I can, take advantage of that. I believe, not sure if I have everything full in the silo on this or not. I'm trying to recall how I ended up with this in here. I may have simply known that I would have to load this, and so, oh goodness, I just keep blowing right by. There we go. So we'll get that loaded up. Again, it can take quite a bit. So, and then we can see we've got the need for some seeds. I didn't really look at how much, so it's probably easier to take more than I need and then just come back and clean it up. Alright, so I have a couple things that we talked about with precision farming is I can't use, or wait, that's right, I put the crop sensor on here. It's daylight, never mind. I was going to say I can't use the crop sensor, but I can. So I'm going to turn that on. And it's possible because I did that before with the grass, because at this point our environmental score is 80, and so we are maxed out on everything that we have touched. So we are doing tillage now. Weed control will come with the See and Spray. I have never been able to achieve 100%. This may be the first time, so we're gonna see how this all goes. But just want to make sure. So the crop sensor is on. I'm going to go ahead with wheat here. I think it's going to require a good amount of of material to do that. I'm going to reposition myself because I think I'm a little too far down on the field, so I'm going to try this now. Because I know I've limed it, but I think that's going to be just too much. So we're going to lower the seeder. And we're going to turn it on. And right now... No, we didn't turn it on. I don't know what happened. So I'm going to back up here. Why is it not letting me turn this on? Is something... I bet the back is disconnected again. It is. I do not understand how this is happening. Is everything connected here? Yes. Alright. There we go. So you can see we need 95, and we're seeding at a super high rate, you know, which is fine. We're gonna miss a little bit there, but I don't know that it's worth it as far as going back. We'll worry about it at other times, but at this point we're moving. We've got the crop sensing on. We've got the seeding on. I'm going to go ahead and shrink this down so we still get our key points, but you can see on the variable seed rate you've got 3 dots, and basically that will tell you how much seed you're able to get. It's interesting how the yield or the fertilizer map draws so far back from my tractor, but if you think about it, obviously we've got a lot happening there. So it's my understanding that to get the full amount of nitrogen you need the crop sensors, and so I'm hoping that this is going to work appropriately, since we're seeing a 30 at this point on our field. And you may or may not have noticed that that turns into a 9% increase in the amount of money that we're going to make if we sell crops in game. Now again, out of game, unless they do something different, which they've never done before, but we didn't have an environmental score before, there's no impact to any of that. Now I think we're seeing some of this because of I'm just trying to figure out. Right, that'll work, because this is always the challenge of trying to then line up. So I was going to do that at the end of the field, but I did not. So there's always a little bit that we tend to run off. But you can see we're getting kind of a greenish value on the fertilizer, which doesn't necessarily translate specifically into that that's what our yield will be, because that would be great if we could do that. So there are crops like soybeans, for example, that don't take nearly as much of the fertilization. Like, I could have run this field with no fertilizer if I planted soybeans, but I've done those recently, and wheat was the thing that jumped in for me, and so I said I would go ahead and do that. Now, it is interesting that the seed rate is so high in this case, because usually that will change from soil type, but you can see it's kind of standing there. Just want to make sure. Deactivate automatic seed rate, which means it's activated right now. But, you know, we're gonna probably do pretty well on the fertilizer at this point. given how things are playing out. And it's just going to be a determination of what then happens for seeds and so forth, because I think the seeds are going a lot faster than I would expect, but at this point we're at 95 kilograms of nitrogen, up to 100 now. So you can see we're definitely putting out a lot of supply into the ground. Now, the key thing to remember is this is a one-time thing now. So we may use more fertilizer than we've been used to when we're initially planting, but that in large part is because we are putting 2 levels of fertilizer down here, where before we would do this and then I would have to go through and fertilize again with a second layer, and now we won't be doing that, or a second application is probably a better way to say it. So I'm going to run the end here. And it's interesting that it's like kind of telling me I need to change the fertilizer for some reason in some cases over places I've gone. So that's where I'm a little confused. Because when I did the grass with this, I had forgotten to turn on the crop sensor, and I went and redid the field later with the crop sensor on. Okay, I'm letting my brake go because we've got really bad lag here, and I'm worried we're going to end up in the river or something. Alright, now we're fine. Oy, that was not good. So, I just have... oh boy. I do not want to end up in his field. So, I really don't like the fact that we're getting this lag here. I don't know why we're getting this lag here. It should be better, because if it goes on too much, this is where I then kind of call it quits and say, well, I'm going to have to come back and try it another time and hope the server is in better shape. But I'm hopeful that this isn't going to happen. It's interesting, the striping he's got down there on his field. And it's possible that's the difference between me, in my case, applying with a crop sensor, and it's possible he didn't, but I'm seeing his field with the crop sensor on. And so that may be what's occurring there. This is terrible. We're getting up to 3,000 or 4,000 milliseconds. And you can see how that then jumped us around, and that's the danger of the lag. When you're coming up on a field, for example, a farmer's field that you don't want to run into. I mean, right now it's early spring. Nobody has anything active in the ground. And I wasn't headed toward a field anyway. But, you know, that's how I'm going to end up in the river at some point. So I'm not real thrilled with how that is acting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that again. I kind of realized far too late that I had gone much too far, and that I needed to do something different. Alright, so this should now work fine. So we'll see how it swings over. So we're probably going to move a bit, but we should be, there we go. I think we're going to be okay there. It's always a bit of a challenge that starts to happen there as we're doing this, but again, I may start applying a second pass there. But yeah, the nitrogen level And I think because of the crop sensor, it's just saying optimal value, because it's not telling us specifically what that value is, which I think it used to. Without the crop sensors, that it would say for wheat it needs to be, you know, 180 or whatever it is that we're targeting. And I'm just not sure if this is more significant of a drain on the soil just because this is our first time through on precision farming, or if really with what we had in the field before, which again were oats, because we're doing 2 grains in a row, sometimes that creates a bit of a problem, because some other crops sometimes will help and might even put a little, it used to in FS19 put a little bit of value in there and increase your nitrogen level, and it made things better, but I'm not sure that we're going to have that opportunity here. Alright, I'm not sure what I'm seeing. Oh, that's my yard or something. I'm like, why is my nitrogen so red over there? But yeah, that makes sense, because that's the yard that's like never been fertilized. So what we're going to likely run into, seed should obviously, I would imagine, be similar, but we're going to likely consume more fertilizer than we're used to, because of the fact that this is all getting applied at once. You know, and it's interesting. I mean, there are some gradations in the green where we are applying already that you can see a little bit of a change, but it's not as obvious as what we have in the areas we're going over. But yeah, the key was that, you know, needing to plant here during the day, because this crop sensor won't work without daylight. It just happened to work out for us. So, but yeah, you can see some of the variation up in the green there now a lot more clearly, where I think we had applied less. So that's, I think, what the crop sensor will do for us, is it will give us that variety versus it being a lot smoother without it. But this is supposed to be more accurate, hence why we're getting the 30 score on the nitrogen. And again, the nitrogen is the, you know, biggest percentage of the 5 items we have. You know, we've got, there is a little bit that got left there, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that up, and then continue on and do a second headland. So it may not touch this, it may say that I already have it done, but I'm going to give it a good old try. Alright, so there we go, and then we'll get this piece here, and this will get some more of a border in the field here for me to work with. And of course we're getting lag here, and the only thing I can think of is just, again, with precision farming and the fact that that other field is down there and some other farmer has done some stuff, because yeah, it's only happening down at this end. If you think about it, we didn't run into it anywhere else on the field yet. So I wonder if it really does have something to do with that. Oh boy. Because yeah, I really don't want to plant his field accidentally. Because I suddenly burst through. But I think I'm alright. So yeah, it's disappointing the variable seed rate isn't changing any. So I guess I would have expected that. But in any event, it's operating as well as it's going to operate. So I am going to continue heading forward on this, and I'll be back once I'm done, and we'll let you know where we're at. And then we'll have a conversation about next steps there of what I'm thinking. So I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so I'm just cleaning up after the work here. First time we've really seen the farm kind of coming out of winter. You can still see over to the cow barn pretty clearly. So pretty nice. Oops. I was going to say I end up driving up through this direction to put stuff away. So it's a little bit of a roundabout way to get, whoop, no, this will work to get there, but well, maybe it'll work. I missed that tree, but this will still get me through, because yeah, I think I would have gone slightly the other way, but it's okay. The point is to get here and be able to disconnect. Alright, so you can see cows are still full. Nothing's really getting dangerously full. We're still only 60% to the point of being ready to get some more cows, so we're still just working with our 36. But you know, we've got 42,000, almost 43,000 liters of milk. I'm sure we'll be at 43,000 before today is over, given that it's just afternoon. So our environmental score is up to 83. That increases our sell price to 10%. Our tillage went up from 5 to 7.5. It's possible, because we have this there. I'm just not entirely sure, you know, how things are going to play out there. And I think I had the grass planted before. Before precision farming was in, so we may not get any higher, but I don't know that if I can max this out, which is going to be my target, that the 2.5% is going to matter. It might increase sell prices by another percentage from whatever it ends up at. So you can see the seed rate was standard, and then unfortunately high on most of the field, which does tend to go with the soil types. And all of the other detail is done accordingly. So the one thing I need to do now is deal with see and spray technology. And so what that means is I need a different sprayer. And I believe it also means that I can't spray until there's some visible weeds. Because part of see and spray is that it will only spray where there is a weed. So I am going to assume that I cannot spray now, because otherwise there's just nothing for it to see. There we go. Alright, so this is in fact empty. So I'm going to go ahead and get this over to the shop. That's a bit of a tight turn there. It won't, just maybe hadn't turned my wheel enough. But yeah, the other piece that we can't really see on the screen there, and we're right here where it's just starting to grab the feeds, so we couldn't have done it any more perfectly. But you can see we've still got over half of everything is running, and this is now our 6th day. The mineral feed, for example, again, the max on that was 100,000. We are still at 95,000 on this. So so far this looks pretty good with that kind of stuff. but we kind of stay at the 99,000 liters for TMR in there. So again, the big challenge is going to be, is something going to change once I have 240 cows in there versus basically 40. But because that's operating that way, I mean, we can move 50,000 liters of something at a time. Like, you can start to see why I was feeling that cows this way are going to actually work out well for me, because they're just not going to require as much oversight as the pigs did. The pigs were a lot more labor intensive, which is surprising to me, given that I knew, you know, cows had all this situation in them. So as we head over to the store, I'll reiterate again, because you may have missed the episode where I talked about it, because I know there's a lot of material that comes out here for Misty Hills on FSN, because there's a lot of time spent here. But with precision farming in FS22, they've introduced variable rates for nearly everything, where initially in FS19 we had variable rates for fertilizer and for lime, and that was really it. Now we have seed, we have herbicide. If we were spreading manure or slurry, there's that as well. So there's variable rates, and so for slurry and herbicide, there's technology on the equipment that is introduced to allow you to use them. So for herbicide, it's called See and Spray, and I forget what it's specifically called for slurry because I don't do that much of it. Again, I've talked about it in my precision farming tutorial, where I get very, very deep into all the aspects of it. But you know, so this sprayer doesn't have that technology. So while it has served us well, it is time to retire this sprayer, and I could have just sold it from the farm, and Farming Simulator would let me do that, but since I've got to come here and get the other sprayer anyway, we'll just kind of do it the right way, where I'll get here, I'll go ahead and repair it. So I don't think we're gonna get, because it seems we don't get nearly as much when we sell it. So there we go. Even though it says 16,000, you'll see we're gonna get, oh, we actually did get it. So I suppose some of it is maybe that we need to actually bring it here. Otherwise we lose quite a bit selling it remotely. Alright, so we go back in here, and these two sprayers are our choices, but this sprayer requires a very expensive spraying unit, where this one is the traditional tow behind. Now it does have a low capacity, but keep in mind we should be using a lot less material. So you can see now there's See and Spray. It's not inexpensive. It's going to add 39,000 to have that technology. But the hope would be that very, very quickly it will pay for itself. But what you're going to see is each nozzle will only turn on when there are actual weeds below the nozzle, which once again is why we need to be able to see the weeds, because otherwise there's nothing below the nozzle. So it's possible it would work, but I don't know. I just don't know what if I want to go ahead and take that chance. So I can find out relatively quickly. So let me get back to the farm. We'll load this up, and then we'll take it for a spin today, but more than likely we're going to wait until another day to use it, because I just don't think we're going to get the results that we expect. So you'll see here, full score of 30 is reached when using the spot spray technology. With that, you perfectly control your weeds with the minimum usage of herbicides and reach the optimal yield. So this is why I'm investing this amount there, because we're going to use less herbicide and thereby theoretically also increase our yield. And this then creates a situation where, once again, it may be advantageous to me to sell crop directly on the server compared to direct sell through FSN. Because the other thing I'll have now is I'm going to have at least a 10% bump. So let's say it's $500 per thousand. I'm going to get $550 per thousand in this case. So that can be enough to swing it to say, I'm just selling it on the server, kind of like I started to do with sorghum. But at that point, our environmental score was below 50, and I was getting a 3% penalty. Alright, so this does also do partial width, like the other piece did. Now, I don't think I need to change the nitrogen reference value because A, I'm not using this for nitrogen, which is fertilizer. I am using this for herbicide. Alright, so here we go. And again, this is only 3,000, so this will be significantly less. It's not the 5,200 that we had. So 3360. So we'll unfold it. We'll see how this works. As far as how it operates, more than likely it'll stretch out and then lower down is kind of what we're used to. There we go. So that it gets closer. And so I believe what we have, if we look at these, it's just a little more challenging. Let's see. There we go. So I believe the sensors are mounted up here, and then the nozzles are down below. And so you can see they're in essence cameras that are going to look down, and at this point my feeling is there's nothing for them to look at. So given how that works, what should happen now is I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bit, but I should get nothing, and you can see in fact that is what's happening. But I don't know if I'm getting my impact is my challenge. It looks like I am, but I also don't know. And I guess what I can do, because it's not going to cost me anything but time to do this right now. So let me go back here, because you can see I have the sprayer on. But yeah, I missed some of the field, which is what I'm doing if you're wondering what's going on. But at this point it wouldn't cost me anything but time, but similar to when I go, because it's really, I mean, it said it would save 90%. I mean, honestly, in this case, if this works, it's going to save me 100%, which would pay for itself very, very quickly, but I don't think that's quite what we're going to see here. So let me make sure I still stay far over so that I'm getting everything. But, you know, what will happen is, because nothing is being applied, so you'll see nothing is coming out of the nozzles. I mean, as if you need to realize that any more than just seeing the fact that I'm not losing any liters. But what I can do then is try this, and if this doesn't work because it applied nothing, I can then go ahead and run over it again tomorrow, and so again all I will have lost is time. Now here we may start to get some, because again, see, we're hanging over the edge, and it's possible, like there's a weed there, so it's possible it's going to spot spray those, and you know, and then it won't be an entire empty thing where nothing gets used. But if it did, it didn't use enough material, so. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I am going to line up, so I'm again going to apply this, and then I am going to set my GPS, and then we'll get myself online, and then I'll be all set with being able to do that. Now, you know, because in theory, the benefit here is that if there's still the yield benefit, which I don't know that there is, of doing it before weeds are visible, alright, well, it may be giving us credit, because you can see now we're fully up there, so we got a 14% bump. My guess is if I got myself all the way up on to 100 with tillage somehow, I would be able to get 15% is probably what will happen. But it's giving me credit here for spraying the weeds with the spot spray technology. So the big question is going to be, will I then not see any weeds tomorrow? So I'm going to go ahead and run this field. As you can see here, did I miss that whole section? No, I did not, but it just kind of laid itself out that way. Alright, so this is, you know, now going to be things I've already done, so I'm going to head back here and then continue on. But I'm going to go ahead and get this field done, and then we'll see, you know, I'll be able to see tomorrow if it worked. Because in this case, then, one of the benefits, aside from that I don't have to fertilize later, because previously, if you recall, you know, the process was, plant with fertilizer, apply weed control with the sprayer, and then the next day come back and apply the second layer of fertilization. If this functions the way it appears that it may be, I can actually now get everything done in one day if I'd like. And obviously if this works, I'm going to do everything I can to get it done in one day, because if I can basically get the effect, I guess that's a strange bonus, but my guess is there's going to be weeds tomorrow, but I'm not going to know unless I try it this way. So I'm going to get this field done, and there's really going to be nothing to show you, so this is where I'll end this episode this time, and you'll see more and at some point in the future. So I'll see you next time.